Hello, everybody! Welcome back to the stream. It's Wednesday, and you know what that means? It means that it's jump around our cardio class. And oh boy, I had matcha today, which I've only done once, maybe twice before. And I did not realize how much caffeine is in matcha. For clarification, I don't drink coffee. I've never drunk coffee, so any caffeine intake I get from tea. And I am clearly unused to the amount of caffeine that I received in this matcha because I have felt like weirdly fuzzy and jittery for the last several hours, and it's finally clearing up now, but I'm like, okay, so maybe not matcha next time. Maybe literally anything else. So, woo! I'm feeling all full of caffeine, hopped up on caffeine, and I guess ready to do some cardio, except I'm still in my rest week, so I have to take it easy. Dang it. Curses. But I hope everybody else is doing well. We've made it back to Wednesday. It's fascinating. There's nothing like streaming to really hammer home how time has no meaning. It's like, didn't I just say welcome back to Wednesday like yesterday? You know, you're like, I feel like the last week was a million years and also took no time at all because here I am saying this thing again. And usually when you're like going throughout your day, you're not going up to people in meetings and being like, hey, so it's Wednesday again. But I do here on the channel. So it's Wednesday again. I hope that the beginning of your week has gone well. It's 90 degrees, 91 degrees here. There's still a couple of not well contained forest fires raging in various parts of the state. We had a beautiful sunset last night, and I was just like, ooh boy, is that a sunset that is just red with haze from forest fires. So it was gorgeous and also very disconcerting. But at least the air quality today is much better than it was yesterday, which is really nice. And just sort of moving through life. I got a couple of fun presents for myself in the mail yesterday. I've been playing the ukulele since I was in 4th grade, which is when I moved to Hawaii. And I can play well enough to accompany myself, but I don't necessarily consider myself great at it. And so one of the goals that I've made for myself is to start practicing more and start really working on this skill. So I picked up an instructional book on ukulele, which I'm really excited about. I also am looking to start songwriting, so I picked up a cheap keyboard that I can use for songwriting. So lots of fun stuff coming in the mail. Hopefully will lead to some fun projects. Not necessarily that will show up on here, although, anything's possible. But just nice things to do in the rest of my life. And it's good to have nice things that we're doing in the rest of our life, especially considering how the rest of the world is. So let's put the rest of the world aside for a little bit. Obviously, we know it's still there. We don't ever forget about it, but let's take a deep breath and hopefully not feel too jittery from caffeine. Let's get going. It's gonna be a fun cardio class today. Ooh, yeah. So let's do our pre-class checklist. Everybody got your water bottles? Particularly important on cardio day. They're important every time that you exercise, but today, if you're not hydrating well, you will feel it. And we got our comfy clothes on, whatever that means to you. Got our mat set up on the floor or whatever marked out space for exercise we have. And if you use a fitness wearable, now is the time to turn them on. Woo! No, not world clock. World clock? Why would I? Why would I ever click on that? Yeah. Oh, Siri. Okay. There we go. High intensity interval training is what we use for this class, and it is going to live up to it, my friends. Oh yeah. As I said, I am still on my personal rest week, so I'm gonna be trying to take it a little bit easier on what I'm doing up here, but I will obviously still be demonstrating things and doing a lot of the work along with you, so do not fear. All right, well, I'd say that now it's time to get going. All right, so let's get over to our mats. We're gonna do our usual warm-up sequence. So we start over here on our backs, on our mats, 1 foot crossed over the opposite knee. And as soon as you hear the timer go, we're gonna get going with hip rocks and bridges. So as soon as we hear it, we are moving and grooving, but not intensely, because we are warming up, not trying to get to 11 right off the bat. Yeah, it's amazing how just ingesting something you are not used to ingesting can really just reverberate through your body. And it's not like I don't have caffeine. I drink black tea quite frequently, but I do not do matcha frequently, and it really had an impact that I wasn't expecting. I think it also didn't help that after I was done with the matcha, I made myself some black tea, and like as soon as I started drinking it, I went, I wonder if this is gonna over caffeinate me, but I didn't stop drinking it, and here we are. So if you too are over caffeinated, I empathize. All right, we are on our other side now. Still doing our hip rocks and bridges. Nice and relaxed. Hope that everybody has their AC on, especially if it is 90 degrees where you are, as it is here. I just, I honestly, I have a lot of concerns about what's going to happen when the weather gets colder, what's going to happen for around the pandemic that is still raging through our country, and what's going to happen once it is less easy for even the small social distance outdoor gatherings to take place. But I am also so ready for cooler weather. I am not here. All right, onto our sides for Jane Fonda. I've never been huge into hot weather. My personal favorite seasons are fall and spring, because they are warm enough that you don't have to load on 5 million layers like you do in the winter, but they are cool enough that you can still wear pants and fun jackets, which you definitely cannot do on a 90-degree day. Wearing the same 2 pairs of shorts and the same 3 tank tops basically every day. It's like, I'd like to get a little variety back into my wardrobe, but it's hard to do when you really need to be dressing for ease of moving through super hot weather. And in Colorado, we are, all right, top foot in front of that bottom knee, lifting that bottom leg. In Colorado, we are very fortunate that because it's so dry here, and because we are at a higher altitude, so, a little bit thinner atmosphere, when you are in the shade, it cools you down substantially. I was outside for 3 hours last Saturday, and the majority of that time I was sitting under a tent, and I was perfectly comfortable. And as soon as the tent came down, I was like, oh my God, the demon Daystar has found me, and it is immediately trying to cook me into nothing. So that is definitely something that I am grateful for in Colorado. Humidity can be really uncomfortable. I never really noticed it. All right, but behind that bottom leg, still lifting the bottom leg. I lived in the Northeast for 10 years, and never really had any issue with the humidity until I moved here and then went back for my first visit. And I went back in, I want to say April. So April is one of those months that it can be, 70 degrees one day and 40 degrees the next. And, this particular week that I was out, it was cooler, definitely. So it was still, probably 50s. And it was humid. And I was like, oh my God, what is this awfulness? How did I survive for 10 years? When even in the wintertime, it feels like you're having to swim through the air. All right, switching over to the other side. We're doing the same 3 activities. Woo! And that's, I feel like that's why it's always felt so much colder. Like the cold days are really cold in the Northeast because there's still so much water in the air that it cools you down even more, even further than the cold temperatures. Here, even on a super cold day, unless it's like negative degrees outside, it's never that bad, especially if you're moving, and so that's why a lot of outdoor activities like hiking and stuff like that can continue relatively easily during the winter and are actually pretty pleasant, all things considered. But, all of the, all right, foot in front of the bottom knee, all of the, park gatherings that people have been trying to do. And, I won't be sad to see the clearly unsafe park gatherings disappear, the ones where you see people and they're definitely not 6 feet apart and they definitely aren't wearing masks and they're clearly moving around and talking to each other in smaller, like super close to one another. Like, I won't be sad to see those go, but I'm not under the illusion that those people are going to stop gathering just because they can no longer do it in the park. My fear is that what they're going to do is try gathering indoors, and then we're going to see a even worse round of infections than we already have. We're still in the first wave, folks. We like to pretend that there's a second wave coming, but we haven't actually come out of the first wave yet. So I am worried. I am worried about what happens then. And I'm trying for myself right now to set up, a solid structure for digital socializing and also for solo alone time. And I've really been leaning into doing one-on-one video calls with people rather than a lot of group gatherings, trying to focus more on, tonight I'll hang out with this friend on Zoom or Discord or Google Hangouts, and we'll, talk for a couple of hours, share a beer together, and that way it's not as exhausting because it better mimics what real life conversation with the person would be. Hey, time for those scorpion twists. Yeah. Oh, remember to keep your elbows glued to the ground. Yeah, it's not as far off from what it would be like to be sitting in person with someone and talking as group calls are. You have this experience, and I'm glad I finally figured out that this was what was exhausting me with group calls, because I think that I can mitigate it better now that I understand it. But when you're at a party, you're with a bunch of people, you don't have to all take part in the same giant conversation. You can, obviously, but you also can break off into smaller conversations and, you know, easily have an aside with someone that you're sitting next to and all of that stuff. And you don't have that ability when you're doing video calls. But a lot of times we're still trying to, I think, act like we do. And so that causes issues, you know, because when you're on a video call, I can't just turn to the person next to me and make a quick aside that the rest of the group doesn't really need to hear, because there's no way for me to do that. You know, and that can feel really exhausting, and it can feel really exhausting when there's only one conversation that gets to go on because of that, and you're like, well, I want to spend time with all of these people on the call, but it's almost hard to feel like I'm spending time with any of them because, you know, we're not actually getting to talk one-on-one. So I've been doing a lot of one-on-one video calls with people recently, and I've really been appreciating it, and just feeling a lot happier about the experience. And then, you know, I can go into some larger calls and feel okay with that as well, because I have more of a store of energy built up from socializing that feels a little more normal than the group calls generally do. So I'm trying to get that sort of set for myself before we get into the time of year where we're all going to be trying to figure this stuff out. So I've started trying to do monthly calls, at least monthly calls with loved ones, with friends who, you know, even when we are able to travel and move about and hug people that I don't get to see in person nearly frequently enough, and just, you know, remembering that the video calls are actually a really amazing tool, and it feels like none of us actually took advantage of them in the way that we could have been doing this whole time. My mom and I have started doing video calls once a week with each other, and it's like we could have been doing this for years. You know, we haven't lived closer than 1,000 miles from one another since I went away to college, basically. And so we've been doing phone calls for years and years and years, and suddenly we were like, why haven't we been doing like Zoom calls? And it's just one of those things where you start doing it and you're like, well, this is silly. We could have been doing this the whole time. We didn't have to be going for a literal year at a time without seeing each other's faces. We could have been doing video calls. I'm trying to remember that with everybody in my life. You know, I've lived in many places, and I have many dear friends from those places and from college, and, you know, we've all scattered all over the place, which is the way of things. And it can be really hard and really sad when you're like, there's this person who I miss so much, but I hardly ever get to talk to them, you know, and maybe it's because they're bad at texting or bad at calling, or maybe they don't really enjoy communicating through that medium, or maybe you don't. But now that I'm doing these video calls, it's like, oh, okay, this feels like I am having just a regular conversation with somebody I love. And, you know, I may not be able to see this person in person very often, but I'm still getting this time to see their face and hear their voice, and we can, riff off each other and check in with each other and see each other's facial expressions and have a degree of intensity and closeness that you do not necessarily get even with phone calls. And so I'm really enjoying that, and I am definitely trying to keep a more regular schedule for those types of calls so that I can keep up with people, and so that I can make sure that I am not sinking too far into being completely introverted and cut off from all of the people that I love, which is a huge issue right now when we're in the middle of a pandemic that makes it impossible for us to be around the people that we love unless we happen to live with them. So, long story, not really that much shorter. I highly recommend video calls as a way of keeping up with your loved ones. So, if you haven't been really taking advantage of that, try it out this week. If you have somebody in your life who you really miss interacting with, and who you don't, even in the before times, you didn't really get to see a ton, schedule a video call and see how that feels. See how it feels to be talking almost normally, yes, through a screen, but still a lot closer to normal than we usually get. All right. Woo! Good job, everybody. Holy cow. Hi, my dear. Speaking of people who I don't get to see in person nearly often enough, always wonderful to see you in the chat. Yeah, okay. Woo. All right, remember that thing where I said I was still on my rest week? Yeah, you'll need to keep reminding me. Oh, all right. Today is cardio day, okay? Which means that we focus a lot on the Tabata work interval. And today, it is going to be all 20 seconds of work, 10 seconds of rest. And we're going to be alternating. The only thing that's going to change is, cat posters. Yes, support. I am glad that you are in the chat and, can hear me talk about how much I miss you. And we need to schedule that video call. Speaking of video calls. All right. So we're going to be switching back and forth between having one exercise that we do all the way through, or having two exercises that we alternate back and forth on. So each of the timers is going to be 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off, 8 repetitions. And the only difference is going to be, do we have one exercise? Do we have two? So for our first one, we have one exercise, and it's going to be turtle burpees. So I've done this in a few classes. Anything with turtle, if you've taken my class for a while, you know that the first step is rolling onto your back and then rolling up onto your feet, okay? If you have trouble getting up onto your feet with just your momentum, you can use a hand. So we roll up onto our feet, plant our hands, we jump back into a plank position. We're gonna do a wave push-up, jump our feet forward, jump up in the air, and then repeat, okay? So it has all of the hallmarks of a burpee, just a slightly different structure, enough so that you really have to engage your brain and think about what you're doing. which we like. Okay, so here comes our timer. So with the Tabata timer, we know that the first sound does not mean go. First sound you hear is our stop sound. That means rest, breathe. Then knock, knock, knock means get in position, because we want to start as soon as we hear that timer go, okay? So remembering that if you are new to class, or if you're just coming back after an absence, then you want to focus on the bare minimum, okay? What is the bare minimum? There are 3 components: starting on time, stopping on time, and doing the exercise correctly. So for a Tabata, or any timer with this type of structure where you're always coming off of a rest period, starting on time is starting the second that you hear that horn start to go. So that's why we have the knock, knock, knock sound, so that you're over here taking your breath, drinking water. Oh, okay, I heard the sound, and now I'm here, and now as soon as that fanfare went, I was moving, okay? Otherwise, if we didn't have that indicator sound, then, you know, the 10 seconds are just going by, and we're, you know, standing around, and then suddenly the start timer goes, and we're like, oh, crap, I'm supposed to be moving. And then you have missed precious seconds out of your work interval. And when your work interval is only 20 seconds long, you can't afford to miss precious seconds off of that. So starting on time means for today, for the Tabata timer in general, or for any timer where you are coming off of full rest, it means as soon as you hear that start sound go, you are going, okay? We're not going off of my voice. I start talking, I start chattering away. I'm a streamer, I'm trying to entertain you and educate you this whole time, but it means that I get caught up in whatever I'm talking about, and I may miss the beginning of the timer. You know, I may be going down a digression and they go, oh yeah, I should be moving. So you are never going off of me telling you to go, okay? That timer is God in this scenario. That timer is the only sound you need to listen to for starting and stopping. So that's starting on time. Stopping on time is also pretty obvious. So we don't want to stop the movement until we hear that final horn go, okay? So when we hear that sound, then we know it's okay to stop. But until we do, we are still moving. Maybe we're slow, you know, maybe we feel like we're just barely pulling that train up the hill, but you are still doing the exercise the whole time until you hear that ending timer. So that's starting on time and stopping on time. Both really clear audio cues, makes it very easy. The thing that we have to wrestle through is our own brains more often than not. Just being like, but I'm tired and you're expending energy that I might need to run away from a bear later. So maybe we stop before this timer goes. Nah, nope, no chance, brains. We are in it for the long haul. We are going to move. We are going to groove until that final sound goes off. All right, so those are 2 of the 3 components of the bare minimum. I'll talk about the third after we've had some water and started our next thing. All right. I am quite strong, thank you. So, our next timer, we're gonna have 2 exercises, okay? So, as I said, we're going back and forth between doing 1 and doing 2. So, next one is gonna be 2 exercises, and oh boy, the first one is a doozy, okay? First one is going to be frog jumps. Whew. So, frog jumps, we come down here into this position. So it is a super deep squat. I still have my knees out over my feet, so I don't want them trying to cave in. So I have to engage the muscles in my hips to really hold this position. And we are going to push up from this position, jump, and come all the way back down. And we're just going to be jumping up and down over and over again. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's hard, okay? So just know that even I think that's hard. Then the other exercise is going to be push-ups. Oh, glasses. All right, so I generally am fine with people doing push-ups from wherever they want to in the plank continuum. So I can be doing them from my knees. I can be doing a full plank push-up. I can plank down and wave up, or I can do the opposite of that. I can do a wave push-up. Any of those are acceptable. Here are the non-negotiables for this. You want to make sure that your shoulders safely over your wrists, butt out of the air, okay? Even if I'm starting from my knees, I still have a pretty long, straight line of my torso through my upper legs, okay? And when I do the push-up, I am keeping my elbows right next to my body, all right? So I'm really focusing that movement in the triceps, really working the triceps for these, all right? So frog jumps and push-ups. Woo! Here we go. I am going to be gentle on myself with the frog jumps because my knee's been twinging a little bit today. Because being a human means that sometimes stuff in your body just starts twinging and you don't know why. But there you go. So here we are. And when we're doing these frog jumps, when you're coming down into this position, I'm going to show you from the side. I don't want you hunched over, okay? We're trying to keep a flat back while we're down here. We're not trying to have the back fully up and down because that's not really possible, but we are also not wanting to hunch like that, okay? So keep that in mind from a form perspective. And that dovetails nicely into the third component of the bare minimum, all right? Third component of the bare minimum is doing the exercise correctly. I focus on this a lot, as anybody who takes this class regularly knows, because that form is the cornerstone of your exercise practice, of your ability to be an active human, to do a class like this on an ongoing basis, all right? I would much rather you do 2 reps of an exercise and do them perfectly than do 20 reps of an exercise and have the form wrong, because you are at best just training you're training your brain and your body incorrectly when you do that, and you're setting yourself up for injury either in the short, medium, or long term, okay? And we don't want that. It is no good to anyone if you can bang out, 30 or 50 reps of something, but you can't do it without your body coming completely out of alignment to get there. It's not helpful, It's not actually helping you to be stronger or fitter. It is just setting you up so that you're more likely to hurt yourself and then have to take time away from moving so that you can recuperate. So form. That is the other component of the bare minimum. It's the one that I emphasize the most, honestly. And if you focus on nothing else today, focus on form, because that is going to take you so much farther in your exercise journey. And you know, what you start to notice as you become more experienced is that when you get fatigued, it becomes a little harder for you to maintain conscious control over your activity. Your brain will start to default to whatever it's got ingrained in there. If what it's got ingrained in there is bad form, then again, we're just setting ourselves up for injury. And we want to live long, healthy, active lives with lots of exercise. So we want to do everything that we can to minimize our chances of injuring ourselves. So if you think I harp on this a lot, I do, absolutely. But I do it for a reason, because I want you to be moving for as long as you can. So if you're doing push-ups and you're like, man, I feel like I'm losing that plank form, drop your knees down. Drop to what feels like an easier version of the exercise, okay? If you are coming to class and you've been feeling twinging or been dealing with some sort of an injury, then modify things for yourself, okay? You know your body best, ultimately. I'm here to give advice, to give education, but at the end of the day, you're the one living in your body. You need to be able to read the signals that it's sending you and know when you need to downshift, when you need to do a different version of the exercise, when you need to not do that exercise at all. You know, these are important things that we all should be able to tell. Oh, water. I do love you. So, our next timer, we're just going to have one exercise, and it's going to be kick-throughs, okay? So, we do kick-throughs in the warm-up. I know I didn't talk about form specifically today for them, so for the purposes of doing them, when we kick across, we want our shoulder to be over our wrist. We want the standing leg to be 90 degrees, knee pointing up towards the ceiling. We don't want to sink all the way down like this or let the knee start caving in, because both of those positions are going to put some bad pressures on your knee when you then try to shift to the other side, okay? If you have a super thick mat and you struggle with taking these flat hand positions, because the super thick mats make it easier for us to hyperextend our wrists, which can cause impact issues, then consider trying to come down to a flatter floor. You know, I'm going to push my mat away and just do these from the floor for myself. So, all right, kick through time. Here we go. Timer's going. Remember that first sound does not mean go. Yes, I harp on that, but it's only because no matter how long you've been doing class, it is always far too easy to end up going when you hear, you know, the knock, 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 or when you hear that first sound, and then you're like, well, dang it, I mean, I'm glad that I'm getting some extra exercise in, but also I really wanted that rest period in there, and didn't give it to myself. Woo! Knock, 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 here we go. 1 down, 7 to go. Oh my goodness. Kick-throughs are an interesting exercise. They're the most complex exercise in the warm-up, definitely. And, you know, because they require us to be both on the leg and on the hand, and to be able to switch sides, move our legs sort of threaded through ourselves. You know, we're trying not to wrench our shoulder out as we go. We're trying not to, you know, twist our knee in a way that's going to make it unhappy. There's just a lot of things to focus on. So if you're still pretty new to kick-throughs, I always recommend taking it slower, okay? You don't have to have that jump in the center yet if you are just starting out, all right? If you're just starting out, then just move slowly but surely from side to side. You know, twist in, change feet, come over here, and then as you get more experience, then you can add that jump, you can add a little speed, and go back and forth. Another thing to remember is that you don't want your feet and your hands to be far apart from one another, okay? I will frequently see people get ready and be in this like really far apart position, and so when you kick across, your knee has no choice but to be at that diagonal angle, which is not what we want, and you're also shoving your shoulder so far out that it doesn't have as much stability either. So when you're setting yourself up, you can have your hands and your feet pretty close together, and then when I kick across, this leg can be pointing up at the ceiling with ease, and my shoulder is much closer to being directly over my wrist, so it feels better supported, okay? So just things to think about. Again, we want to focus on form. We want to make sure that we are learning how to do the exercise correctly. Before we start trying to get fancy with it, before we start trying to push for more speed and more power, we want to make sure that we have the fundamentals of the exercise down, okay? So don't worry if you still feel like you have to move kind of slowly on this exercise. You know, if you feel like you're not really getting a ton of reps in because you're having to be more deliberate with it, I would rather you do that, okay? I would much rather that you do that and just take care of yourself and go, okay, here I am, good position for the knee. Now I'm switching, good position for the knee. Going over here again. Now I start to speed up. Ooh, it's a little harder for me to keep my knee going, you know, straight up and down. So maybe I ramp the speed back down again. All of this stuff, it's important for you to be able to make these determinations for yourself, okay? Because I'm here in my living room and I cannot look at you directly and go, oh yeah, let's tweak this about your form. So I want to give you as many tools as I can for you to be able to start noticing these things about your own body. And it's always useful to have another set of eyes, you know, a professional set of eyes, take a look at us and go, oh, you can still tweak a few things. I'm certainly still learning and tweaking things about my own performance in different exercises. But the more of these tools that you have, the easier it will be for you to figure out form without as much outside assistance. And when we're working out at home, that's a really useful thing. All right, so now we've done kick through. So now we're going back to 2 exercises. First one, I forgot I pulled my mat over. Okay, first one is going to be a pulsed front superhero. So we are going to lie on our stomachs, legs extended behind, arms extended in front. Try not to run into your armchair. And we're gonna lift up. So I've lifted my legs totally off the ground, chest and arms. And we're just gonna go up, 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 over and over, okay? Then our second exercise is going to be turtle planks. So this is much simpler, all things considered. We're just gonna rock back, rock up, jump to the plank, jump forward, rock back, rock up, plank, forward, okay? So no big complexities. We're just going back and forth between those 2 positions, basically. All right, so we've got the front superhero and we've got that turtle plank. Everybody back to your mats. You've grabbed your water, hopefully. And we're getting ready to go. All right, here we are, prepped and going. So you want to make sure that you are lifting up all the way. You know, we want to be able to go with speed, so I'm not trying to go woo all the way up and down, but I also don't want just, okay, well, I sort of vaguely lifted my legs up. That's not the goal either. So make sure when you're doing those superheroes that you are paying attention to lifting everything all the way up each time. Again, focusing on form. Yay, form. How we love it. Ha. All right, my friends. 2 down, 6 to go. Woo, woo, woo. So the nice thing about the Tabata, particularly the 2010, and the reason that I preference it for our cardio classes, absolutely, is because it gives you an opportunity to really challenge yourself for speed and power, because you only have to maintain that performance for 20 seconds, which really is not a ton of time. So most of us can sprint for 20 seconds and not really have to slow down, okay? And when we're doing cardio and we want to really push that performance a little bit farther, push our body to have a little more, capacity in the cardiovascular system, strengthen the heart, improve oxygen delivery throughout the body. Tabata is a great way to go because we also have those rest periods, and we can start to train ourselves for whenever we have rest in a high intensity interval training, using that to be like, can I calm my breath down a little bit? Can I slow my heart down a little bit? It's only 10 seconds. It's not a ton of time, but can I do that a little bit? Am I able to exert that control over those systems? If you're just starting out, the answer is probably no. Certainly was for me. It was, I took this class for years before I got to a place where I could do the entire hour-long class and get to the end and, have been really pushing myself, really pushing for speed and intensity, not holding back, and you end and you're panting away, and then within a minute, I could be like, oh, okay, I'm good again. I've settled my heart rate, I've settled my breathing. But that took me years to get there, So it's a process. It's always a process. And as humans, we have this terrible tendency to compare ourselves to others, particularly to others who are further along in their training and education on a thing. So, if you're coming into class for the very first time and you are comparing your performance to the teacher and going, well, I can't live up to that. I must be terrible at this. You're setting yourself up for failure before you've even left the gate. So always remember that we are all on a journey with all of this. And, when it comes to these classes, from my perspective, my goal is to help you to utilize exercise as a tool in your toolbox for a long and healthy life. My goal is not, to pump you up, although getting muscle is fun. My goal is not to train Olympic level elite athletes whose entire lives revolve around their training schedule. My goal is to work with people who are out there living their lives and just want to be healthier. You know, maybe you want to be able to hike up a mountain. Maybe you want to be able to pick up your grandkids. You know, I want to work with you. I want to work with you, and I want to show you how easy it is to build a healthy and active life that doesn't require you to be obsessed with exercise 24/7, 365. Okay? All right. Now, for our next trick, we're going back to single exercise, and that single exercise is mountain climbers. Plank position, shoulders over wrists, and even when I'm moving and when I'm driving these knees forward, I am still keeping my butt out of the air, and I'm still keeping my shoulders over my wrists, okay? So those are the non-negotiables for this exercise, and they are hard to maintain, especially if you have weaker shoulders. You know, if you haven't done a lot of work to build up the strength and stability in your shoulders. Our shoulders are a ball and socket joint, so their natural tendency is they want to move around, and to be able to maintain a position like this where they really have to be strong and stable and to stay in one place the whole time, you need to strengthen those shoulders and to build them up. Things like mountain climbers are one way to do that. Mountain climbers are intense. I really hated mountain climbers for years because I didn't have that strength in my shoulders and I didn't have that stamina. And so every time I tried to do them, I just felt like I could never maintain the position. My shoulders always gave out. They always felt fatigued after far too little time. I could tell my body wasn't holding on to the form correctly. And it's really frustrating, you know? But these types of exercises are the ones where we realize how often we neglect to work on shoulder strength and stability as part of our program. I'm more focused on it now because I've had shoulder issues for the last few years and, you know, have had to do physical therapy work to strengthen my shoulders up. But doing that physical therapy work also helped me to turn a corner with my exercise. It helped to strengthen my shoulders to the point where I can do mountain climbers now. And, you know, they're still hard because they're always going to be hard. But when I get into that position, I know I can hold it. I know that I'm not worried about, you know, starting to move when the timer goes off and then I'm pushing so hard on my hands that my body starts moving backwards, my butt starts coming into the air. That's a huge form issue. If you feel yourself back here, try and push your butt down. That's going to reset the plank position. You don't even have to deliberately, actively move your shoulders forward. Just push the butt down and it'll bring you back into line, okay? And then you can start doing this. But really pay attention to how strong and stable your shoulders feel. Do they feel engaged? Are you actively engaging the muscles in your shoulders right now as you're doing this? Okay? If you're not, then I'm willing to bet that you're struggling with feeling like you're pushing backwards a lot. So really try and focus in on that because it helps so much. It helps so much. And it feels amazing when you do start to notice that increased strength, that increased stamina, that increased stability in your shoulders. And then you start to realize how many exercises require us to really engage our shoulders. Maybe not, with the constant motion that mountain climbers have, the constant pushing motion, but, if we're over here doing planks, if we're over here doing push-ups, if we're doing kick-throughs in our warm-up, all of these things require shoulder engagement. And when you take some time to strengthen your shoulders, you will see that pay off in areas you didn't even think needed the help. So, whew. Oh, good job, everybody. Man. All right, we've just got 2 more tapatas to go. Yeah. So, our next one is going to have 2 exercises. And the first exercise is going to be skips. So, skips, super easy. Usually I do them for longer work intervals. So if we're doing them for a 20-10, I want you to push a little bit more on speed for them. And we're just skipping in place. Okay, so I bring one knee up, I hop on the standing foot, my opposite arm comes up at the same time, and I'm not trying to move around on the mat, I'm just trying to stay right here and skip very vigorously. And then the other exercise, we're gonna do basically a full body tick-tock without the tick-tock. So if I start in this pike position with my arms on either side of my knees, and I extend out as far as I can, keeping my chest and arms off the floor, keeping my legs off the floor, and then pull myself back up to that pike, and down and up and down and up, over and over again, okay? So those are our 2 exercises. Skips and full body tick-tocks without the tick-tock. Basically, it's a pike extension, I guess is an easier thing to call it. But, all right, we're coming back to our mats. We didn't just start, because that wasn't the start sound, but that's our get ready sound. So prepping, finding our place, and here we go. So again, 20 seconds. We don't want to be lackadaisically skipping through, a really relaxed field. We want to be going a bit more for speed, okay? So as soon as we've hopped on one foot, we're bringing that other one down and hopping on that one. All right, and then down into position, get ready, and go. Whew. So with core exercises, a lot of times it can be easy for us to try and compensate with other muscle groups when we have weaker abs. So one that's really common, trying to compensate with your neck and head, trying to pull yourself forward with your neck and head. And that's why a lot of people do core exercises and go, man, my neck is really stiff after doing that. Well, it's because you weren't actually doing the exercise with the muscle group that you're supposed to be targeting. You were doing the exercise with a totally different muscle group that really doesn't have any reason to be involved in the process. So make sure that you're checking in. As I lift myself back from that full extension, back up to the pike, what's engaging? Is it my lower abdominals engaging to pull me up? Or am I trying to pull myself with my neck or pull myself forward with my arms? Okay? Again, start to notice these things. Being able to notice what your body is doing at any given moment helps to show you where you need to improve. It just makes you more spatially aware in general, which is a really critical skill when you're doing any sort of a fitness activity, but particularly when we're here in our living rooms, which are not generally set up for exercise in the way that a gym might be. But even in the gym, if you're in the weight room at your gym, you know, going about your business, you still need that spatial awareness. You need to know what racks are around me, what machines are around me, what weights are around me, what people are around me. You know, if I do this kettlebell swing, am I going to knock into this, like wham this person in the back? Or am I going to, if I let go of it, you know, throw it at somebody across the room? So spatial awareness is always a critical skill, and we really want to focus in on it. And, you know, it's no different in our living rooms. Our living rooms are filled with non-exercise equipment, frequently electronics, you know, or bookcases that could fall over and hurt you, you know. So you need to know, if I'm here skipping, am I going to knock into the television and pull it down on me? Am I going to kick my armchair and end up hurting my toe or my foot? Am I gonna knock over that bookcase or break a vase or an instrument or anything like that? So always try to be really aware of your space and of where you are in it. And the more aware that you can be, the better time we will all have. Oh man, so close to the end of class. Grabbing some water, because we are coming into our final Tabata. Usually I would call it the cardio Tabata, but this whole class has been cardio, so that really becomes meaningless. All right, our final exercise. Just doing one exercise for this Tabata, and it's gonna be flaming scarlets. I know, not shocking if you've taken class with me before. So, flaming scarlets, we're here on our mat, arms in a V for victory, and we're just jumping back and forth from foot to foot, getting our knees up above the crease in our hips each time. So we're not trying to prance like this. We are really bringing those knees up every time, keeping those arms straight in a V the whole time. All right, it's intense. It's a great send-off for class. Just think, just this last timer, and then we're gonna do some stretching, and then you can shower and do whatever else you want to do with your day. But before we get there, we are going to do one last Tabata. 8 repetitions, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. There's our get ready sound. Get ready, get set, and go. All right, so if you are new to this exercise and are going, well, how do I know if my knees are coming up above the crease of my hips? Here's an easy way to tell. If I hold my hands out just parallel to the floor right in front of me, I want to be able to hit my hands with my knees each time without pushing my hands down. So that is a great way to tell. All right, a great way to tell. So we're focusing on form because we're always focusing on form, but you know what? We are also focusing on pride, on success, because here we are in our final Tabata of class. We are 2 intervals down, just 6 more to go, and we are crushing it. It's a cardio class. We have been working hard the whole time. Oh my God, working so hard. We are sweaty. We're probably feeling a little fatigued, but you know what? We have made it through an entire hour of class, and We are awesome. We're gonna take our cheerleaders out. We're gonna put them on the floor next to our mats, next to our computers, our TVs, whatever you are using to stream this class. And we are just gonna let them go nuts. Because you know what? They're super proud, and so am I. This is an intense class. It is a lot of effort that you just put in. It is a lot of energy that you have had to expend. It gets really hard to do this and to keep doing it for the entire hour that you've been here. But you showed up, you got on your mat, you made a commitment, and here is the fruits of that. You are going to come out of this class, you're going to be a little bit stronger, you're going to have a little more power, a little more stamina, a lot more energy. I know it seems counterintuitive right now because you are in the process of working so hard, but you are going to have more energy when you come out of this class. Maybe tomorrow you'll feel sore. Maybe you'll have some muscle soreness, but it'll be the good kind of muscle soreness where you know and your body knows that you spent an hour today working so hard, giving every bit of energy that you had, just letting it all go, pushing it all out onto the mat, taking whatever emotions you've been experiencing today, whatever thing you're kicking yourself for in the past, whatever event coming up in the future that you're super worried about, you have taken all of that and you've just gotten to transmute it into exercise. And you should be so proud. It is an intense world right now. We have all got so many things on our plates, so many things that we are struggling with, that we are scared about, that we are angry about, and we can feel really alone right now. We can feel really isolated right now. But you know what? You are not alone. You're here on stream with me, with everybody else taking class, with everybody else in the world, and we are taking care of ourselves so that we can get out there and take care of others. And you should be so proud because that, as they say, was that. All right, my darlings, let's do some stretching. Let's do some stretching. Oh, I'm gonna take us right down to the floor. You know, I'm just really feeling the desire to start with some good quad stretching. So we're gonna set ourselves up. I've got my working leg bent, like fully folded, with the heel on the outside of my hip. And I'm gonna try and pull that heel as close to my hip as I can get it. My other leg is just sort of falling open with the foot next to this knee. It's not doing anything in particular. It's just sort of chilling there. The main thing to keep in mind is that even as we move into the position, do not let this knee, this working knee, come off the ground, okay? If you feel it start to come up, then don't keep going. So, we're in this position, and we are going to let ourselves down backwards only as far as we need to feel a nice stretch along the top of our quads. So for some of you, just letting yourself come back this a little bit is going to be like, oh, I feel it. Awesome, stay there. For some of you, you might be able to get down to your elbows before you're like, ooh, this is the place. And for some of you, you can in fact come all the way down to the ground, okay? Still got my knee on the floor, not letting it come up. And we are gonna take 4 deep breaths. And as we exhale, we're just gonna try to sink a little more deeply into the stretch. All right, so get ready, and here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Hold here for just a second longer. Just really enjoy that stretch. And now we're going to slowly lift ourselves back up, very ungracefully, but that's fine. Don't try and move this leg under its own steam. I want you to take your hands. I want you to grip the knee and the ankle, lift it with your hands, unfold it in front of you. Take both of your legs out straight in front of you. Just bounce your knees, shake them out a little bit, and then we're going to loosen up that ankle because it gets really crunched in that position. So flex the feet and point and flex and point. We're going to roll the feet first one direction and then the other direction. And now we're going to go on the other side. So same notes on positioning, same notes on how we let ourselves down into the stretch. So don't try and force yourself farther than your body's ready to go, okay? Don't be like, well, I'm so close. Surely I can just go this little extra bit. We don't want to tear muscles, okay? All right, so once you are in position, we're going to take those 4 deep breaths again. All right, ready? Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. And 4. Stay here for a second more. Just really enjoy that stretch. This is a stretch that I learned in, I want to say 3rd grade, like legitimately, is when I learned it. And wow, I have loved it ever since. I just think it's such a great quad stretch. All right, take those hands, safely unfold the legs, extend them in front of you, shake those knees out a bit, and then flex our feet, and point, and flex, and point. And then we're gonna circle the ankles, first one direction, and then the other direction. All right, now let's face the front. Let's get into a nice butterfly pose. So I've got my feet together, soles of my feet together, just letting my knees fall open. And we're gonna walk ourselves into a forward fold over the feet. What I don't want you to do, show you from the side, I don't want you to curve immediately over, because then your lower back stays farther away. You don't get quite the same depth of stretch. So I want you to start with a flat back and try and walk that flat back forward as far as you can before finally letting the upper back curve over. You'll find that you can get your lower back much farther down that way, okay? So let's walk ourselves forward. Remember, flat back, hand by hand. Okay, now I can curve my upper back over. Got my head down by my feet. And we're just gonna take 4 deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. and 4. Hold one more sec. Walk your hands back. And now let's close out with just a little bit of a twist. So I'm going to take one foot or one leg, fold it so that I've got the heel basically on the outside of the opposite hip, okay? I've folded it in and crossed it over. Then I'm going to take this foot and cross it over on top. Foot's flat next to this knee. So whichever knee I have facing upwards, I'm going to take the opposite arm and I'm going to reach it around the knee and just pull that knee into my chest so you can really feel that stretch in your hip. And then we're going to twist this way and just reach an arm behind you to really intensify the twist. And so we're holding that knee in, feeling that hip stretch. A nice twist in the back. We're going to take 2 deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. And 2. Then we're going to turn back to the front, but not unfold. I'm going to pull this ankle up on top of the knee that it was next to. I'm flexing my foot because that helps me to protect this knee here, because what we're going to do is we're just going to walk forward and fold over. So that's going to intensify the hip stretch. Anyone who's done a pigeon pose will recognize that this is a very similar position and it's stretching the same place. So we are folded forward over this knee, really intensifying that hip stretch. 2 breaths here. That's 1. And 2. Oh yeah. Walk up. Let that leg come out. Unfold this one. Shake those knees out a little bit. Da, da, da. And then into position for the other side. This is going to be our last stretch. So I've got the bottom leg. That heel is on the outside of the opposite hip. Top leg, foot is flat on the floor next to this knee. I'm going to take the opposite arm, hug that knee to my chest, and then open up towards my other arm. Stretch behind me. Really feel that stretch in the hips. 2 deep breaths here. Here we go. That's 1. And 2. And then unfold, but not completely. Bring this ankle up onto the knee. Make sure you're keeping that foot flexed to protect this knee as we fold forward, intensifying that stretch in our hips. And you will probably notice that one hip is more flexible than the other. This is my less flexible side, and boy do I notice it. Oh, but that stretch feels so good. We're just going to take 2 deep breaths here. That's 1. And 2. Roll back up. Let that leg come out. Unfold this other one. Shake those knees around. And then pat yourself on the back because you are done. Oh, what a good class, my friends. Yes. Awesome class. So much fun. I love our Wednesday class. It's a good blast of energy, and it always feels so counterintuitive to say that, but it really is. Oh, thank you so much for sticking around in the chat, my love. I am so happy to have you here. I'm so happy to have all of you here, and I hope that you take this energy and head out into the world, whatever you are working on, whatever you've got going on, be it a fun project or, something really hard that you're dealing with, or just figuring out how to try and build a better country than the one that we have. You now have some energy to do that, and you've done this really great thing to help take care of your body, and that is gonna pay off as you continue to move through the world and continue to try and do what you want to do, what needs to be done. I know that this has been really good for me in terms of feeling like I have more energy to really put back out into the world. And I hope that it does the same for you. So this is Wednesday, so we've got 2 more classes this week. Fridays, we have functional home fitness, where we do weight training using objects you can find around the house. And Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Is the weekend kickoff class. We just get our weekend started off right with a nice little body weight class. If you want to follow me on social media, I'm Blanche Case Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, Blanche C Fitness on Twitter, because Blanche Case Fitness was too long. I have a YouTube channel. That's where I store all the VODs from this channel, and there's also going to be additional content going up on there. So if you want to go and subscribe to that channel, also Blanche Case Fitness. If you enjoyed yourself and feel financially able to send me a donation, I do have a Ko-Fi account at Blanche Case Fitness. Donations are always appreciated, never required. And if you want to do more classes, want to help keep growing this community, want to see more content coming out on this stream, then please do consider following this channel as we keep building up and moving forward. Woo! So many ideas, my friends. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. All right, go take a well-earned shower. Make sure to keep hydrating. Make sure to eat some food, and have a great rest of your week. I'll see you back here on Friday. Mwah! Have a great night.